Yeah, I got a little break in something here. It's not conference news, but it is Baylor talking for the first time about what's going on right now. President Linda Livingstone, and Athletic Director Mack Rhoades. Dear Baylor family, as many of you are aware, news broke this week of an alleged change in the Big 12 Conference membership linking UT and OU with a possible move to the SEC, and I'm paraphrasing the terms here. But since that time, we've heard many of you express concerns about the uncertainty of our conference and the potential impact on Baylor University. A concern we share with you. Goes on to say they understand the significance and urgency of this matter as conference membership impacts not only Baylor, but Waco, the state of Texas, and beyond. Affiliation in a conference has a power to greatly enhance an institution's academic and athletic national standing and visibility while also expanding academic and research opportunities, blah, blah, blah. So basically, it's important to be in the Power Five is what they're saying here. But they say, rest assured, we, along with the Board of Regents, members of the Baylor delegation, and the Texas legislature, and other Baylor leaders, are actively engaged in conversations with our Big 12 colleagues and others to ensure our university is in the strongest position possible now and into the future. In the midst of what promises to be a lot of angst and speculation, we will continue to focus on what we can control and support our student athletes and staffs. And as the landscape of college athletics continues to change, we maintain an unshakable belief in the strength and resiliency of Baylor and the Baylor brand. And then it says, thank you, and basically promises to, continue moving forward with a Christian mission and competing, at a high level academically and athletically. That's from Linda Livingstone, school president, athletic director Mack Rhoades. So basically just acknowledging that, yeah, we know it's out there. We know people are nervous, but hey, we're working on it. That's how I read that. How about you guys?
I saw Texas Tech, and I think Oklahoma State have something, one of the two, late yesterday evening as well. Okay, here we go. 254-339-1122.
Dylan, thanks for your call from West Virginia. You're on SicEm365 Radio.
Hi, I just read a report that Kansas and Iowa State is they're step across the Big Ten to join the conference.
Yeah, Dylan, I wouldn't be surprised, and thanks for your call, that would happen. I think that's the most natural fit for them should the Big 12 essentially dissipate here in the next year, because it's regionally a lot easier fit. They're both pretty good basketball schools. The Big Ten's a great basketball conference. I don't think the Big Ten's going to, kick up a lot of fuss about, their overall football history, although Iowa State's really good right now. But I do think that, for those two teams, if that's where it goes, I think that's the best fit.
Yeah, the ACC would make some sense, I think, with West Virginia. I mean, that seems like it would have been their more natural fit this entire time anyways, quite frankly. So I could see that. But, the Big Ten as well. The Big Ten's going to love KU's basketball brand if that's what they bring into the fold. Football will be another thing entirely. That'll drag things down a little bit, no doubt about that. But, that makes sense. I'm looking around, though, to your point, and I see kind of what's been going on all day. Lots of rumors, lots of like, hey, this could happen, that could happen. I do not see any official report just yet on West Virginia and Kansas in the Big Ten, but certainly lots of speculation, and that's a move that would make sense. And, much like Baylor and TCU and Texas Tech right now are looking around and going, all right, do we stick together? Do we split up? Like, how does this all work? Oklahoma State's kind of on an island by themselves for the first time in a long time now, and Kansas State very well may be as well, because of the fact that Kansas will, likely be a much more attractive partner with their basketball program.
Everybody has to do what they may be complaining about, that Texas and Oklahoma was selfish, if in fact that's what they think, but every one of the 8 remaining teams, they need to get their own life wrapped first. What is their value? Who has any interest in them at all, if anybody? And then react along the way. And they say, hey, keep everybody up to date. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I do think you could have 6 different angles from 8 different teams.
And here's the thing with the buyout, the buyout only matters if everybody sticks together.
Right.
If you're one of these 8 teams and you want this money from Oklahoma and Texas, and I believe it when I see it, because, I have no faith in the Big 12 and their leadership. I do think that they would probably enforce these penalties, as well they should. They would be morons not to, but again, who are we talking about here? We're talking about the Big 12. So, I think, if you're really in need of that money, or that's something that's going to be important to you, and that's a big chunk of money that's not just going to fall from the sky ever again, then yeah, you have to stick together. But the moment one team decides that they need to pull a Texas and OU, and that Big Ten offer or that ACC offer, whatever it could be, happens, well, they're out of the mix. And then you wonder if it's like pulling a loose string and then just the whole thing unravels, or is that just going to remain a loose string and those 8 can hold that towel or that sheet or whatever together? But if somebody pulls at it, that whole thing could just come unglued.
There are 200, this is from the 210, I think that's San Antonio. There are 200 million reasons for the remaining 8 to stay together and try to add Brigham Young plus 3. And I know that there are, I've counted. I think I've seen like 17 different programs that fans are saying who could be added to the Big 12. That's a crapshoot. It's like a dartboard. It's like pin the tail on the donkey. There may not be any of them, but they have to be interested too. And some of them make sense maybe more than others. It will be a fun next few days.
Like the way you hear about, oh, what if they just get Arizona and Arizona State to leave the Pac-12? I don't know why anybody would leave from a Power 5 to come to the Big 12. You have to be a non-Power 5. So there's all these speculations. Like, fans want the Big 12 to do.
Well, Paul, Oklahoma and Texas just did it.
No. I'm saying, why would you want to come to the Big 12 from a Power 5?
Yeah.
So,
with Texas and Oklahoma gone, the value is just not the same.
Yeah. So again, why would you want to leave your conference?
We don't know how they may feel.
Well, here's the thing, and this is what I wanted to get to.
That's a good point, but it's not impossible.
Here's the thing: they're not a Power 5 now, even with Oklahoma and Texas gone. The Big 12 is still a Power 5 conference by definition, and they remain that way even without Oklahoma and Texas, right? So you are still a Power 5. Now, I don't know what the legalities are or how you come by that definition. I don't have those details, but, if you are as of right now, even with those gone, you feel like you can go, hey, Arizona State, and I know those are long shots, but just they'd be the most interesting.
Why would they want to leave? What would be the number one? No, I'm not questioning you, but what would be the number one reason they would want to possibly leave the Pac-12 if they came to this conference?
I have no idea because that's not what I'm really talking about. I'm just saying the Big 12 is still a Power 5, even without Oklahoma and Texas. By definition, they are a Power 5. So it'd be one thing if they were now in AAC territory, which on paper they look that way. By legality or whatever, they're not. They are. So, hey, we're still a Power 5. You've been in the, I don't know what your pull would be. That's for Bob Bowlesby to finally earn his paycheck and figure out. That not me. But yeah, I don't know. But again, the main thing is you stick together and you compile a boatload of money and you convince some teams to move in and you go from there. Or one team just gets cold feet and then all of them scatter.
Is there a chance if you're Arizona State, or others that are in the West or Mountain time period, is there any value at all if you can get about the same amount of money with a TV deal and move into a different time zone at times when you're playing?
I mean, that would be one of the things. I mean, that's
minimal.
That's the best point I've heard so far, other than the fact that, the leadership and the way the conference works, it just – it would scare me off, and you've already heard that their TV deal isn't that attractive. So, I think that's all going to be discussed. All right, let's go to one more call before we go to Grayson. Antoine in Oklahoma City, thanks for your call. You're on SicEm365 Radio.
Hey, I was just wanted to say, I don't really see that big of a problem with this move. To be honest, I think out of all the schools, Oklahoma State's got an option because, they should be trying to go anywhere, and I don't know. I just think they should just get rid of the Big 12 at this point. What's the point in saying that? You bring these other schools in, hell, is the Big 12 really even going to matter if you try to bring some of these other, colleges from other schools? They're not going to be as relevant, except for like Kansas in basketball. That's all I got to say about that.
Kansas in basketball and Baylor just won the national championship. I know that Kansas has the brand when it comes to that as well. Yeah, that's a good point. Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, various schools have to also be considered when it comes to who they are and what they do and where their academic standing is. Believe me, the Big Ten waited a long time with Nebraska. And I'm still not so sure they're all that thrilled that they're there, because it's not like they're one of the highest academic institutions. What do they call that term?
The American Association of Universities. Yeah. By the way, my friend Kyle Cornish did text me the 3 schools that are AAU schools in the Big 12 are Texas, Iowa State, and Kansas.
Iowa State.
And the AAU thing is a big deal to the Big 12. It is. And they had to kind of cough and turn their head and hold their nose, I think, when Nebraska was accepted, when it comes to that part of it.
Well, the reason to stick together would be the money that we were just talking about. The gigantic chunk of change that Oklahoma and Texas, as of right now, will owe the Big 12. Talking 9 figures, right? $100 million something dollars or whatever they would end up paying, at least 8 figures, if not 9 figures. So that's why right now you would, or a big part of the reason why you would want to keep this thing together is to get that massive chunk of money that will be headed your way as a result of the 2 schools leaving. And that's significant money. That's not just like, oh, here's a few million. No, it's like double-digit millions heading your way after a pandemic year. So, and the fact that, like I said, you are still in a Power 5 technically, and if you feel like you can add 2 or 4 teams and remain that way, even though your playoff odds are not going to be nearly as good as they were previously, then at least you're still keeping your head above water rather than, going down with the ship. But I'm with you, at least as far as the Big 12. I was advocating yesterday, like, just blow it up already. But then you do take into account, like, yeah, Oklahoma State would have a spot. Well, good for Oklahoma State, but TCU might not. So TCU has interest in wanting to keep the Big 12 together because they might not have. And Baylor, same thing. Iowa State, same thing. Kansas State, same thing. I mean, yeah, Oklahoma State might have an option, but the others don't necessarily have one. So I think this is all going to boil down to not necessarily the Big 12 sticking together, although that's going to matter, but it's really going to matter of who gets what offer from who and when during this process.
Take a call? Okay, yeah. I'm sorry.
One more. All right, Patrick from Virginia. Actually, from Houston, sorry. Patrick from Houston, you're on SicEm365 Radio.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I got to change my phone number. I appreciate that, guys. No, this is kind of first off, I just started watching the show with you guys. Great stuff, especially over the past few days. But kind of a two-pronged question. First, do you feel like there's any kind of benefit of having TCU and Baylor as maybe like a package, just because you have that rivalry, you have that connection, and as much as I hate to say it, the enemy of my enemy, with referring to Texas and Oklahoma leaving as my friend, I feel like they're better together. And then second part of the question is, what do you think this does with like the ACC or the Big Ten, like with those power schools like Ohio State or Michigan or Clemson? They're looking at it and like, well, you have the super conference in the SEC, and all of a sudden now maybe that's something where they looking at maybe forming another super conference with those other big teams. Just kind of, again, the chaos. I love chaos with all this stuff, so it's kind of fun to think about, but I want to get y'all's thoughts on that.
You are Captain Chaos from now on, all right? That's what I want Patrick. You. When you text us or you call us, you let us know you're Captain Chaos. Yeah, a lot of people like that. They like that there's always something going on. The Big 12, the rivalry between TCU and Baylor may be a pretty big deal for TCU and Baylor, but other than around the country, it doesn't bring anything. It doesn't. That's just reality. There's been some great moments and some tense moments, but that's not going to stir the boat when it comes to a conference saying, hey, we'll take those. The only combination there, TCU and Baylor, private schools, they've in football the last 10 years, they've been pretty good at times, but that's it. I don't think their rivalry game is something that they care about anywhere maybe outside of the state of Texas. Maybe 2014, a lot of people cared about it.
Well, I would say to your point, they probably need to stick together. They need to. They're basically looking at each other in the mirror. They're as similar as 2 schools in this scenario pretty much is. So, I don't know if they would be attractive looking at it from his standpoint of a package deal to the ACC or some other conference that would be interested. Like, oh, hey, we can grab a couple of Texas private schools. I'm not sure that would be of interest, but I do think you look across the other successes in sports they have. And, maybe that private school thing is something that is unique and brings something different to a conference that maybe somebody is entertained by. I don't know. But, yeah, I don't think the combo together will be that much of a pull. But I do think that they need to work together in a major way. They need to basically become best friends during this process because they're in the same exact boat. They are in the same exact boat, and they're stranded together. So they better work in conjunction or, one of them could find themselves on the outside looking in.
All right, when we come back, or we have another call. When we come back, Grayson Grunhafer, SicEm365.com, our recruiting analyst. What does this mean, or has he reached out to any of those committed for 2022 or whatever?
Yeah, and there's the second part of his question about the ACC and the Big Ten and whether he thought that people would go and poach, or those conferences would go and now poach to form their super conference.
Yeah,
Yes, they will.
And I think so. I think so. You could end up, because of what Notre Dame did in the ACC, now there's a little bit of commonality there, if that's a word.
Yes, I fully think that the ACC's full mission, like they know West Virginia, will just cut, they can call West Virginia and be like, okay, you're in. But right now, their full attention is on Notre Dame joining in football because they're a member in every other sport.
Yep.
So.
And that's a big deal. That's a national brand. They're not quite who they used to be, but they're still Notre Dame, and they bring a lot of power throughout the country.
All it takes is a Pac-12 saying, hey, we've got Oklahoma State and Texas Tech coming on board, and then the whole thing, pulling the wrong Jenga block, the whole thing just falls down. And then, TCU and Baylor, they better be holding hands and running together and trying to find safe space if something like that to occur. So you got to just hope that no blocks.
This is like
missing.
an episode of Survivor.
Yeah, it is, basically.
I mean, it really is. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Don't they all lie to each other?
Yeah,
Pretty much,
exactly.
yeah.
All right, I'm going to vote for you after we eat a snake.
All right, we will get to a lot more. Your feedback is great. We appreciate the compliments, and even some of you that maybe still don't quite know what we do. We're here every afternoon, 3 to 6, SicEm365 Radio. Yes, for some that have asked, we cover the hell out of Baylor, but we cover, as you can tell, the last 3 days, this kind of story from different angles that we have, the Cowboys, high school football, and more. And Grace said about what are the recruits thinking about all this, the commits, next on SicEm365 Radio.